Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay.
This is the first ever live recording of the Boles of Life podcast. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Virginia. As we've gone through life, we've learned something important.
Life is messy. It gets complicated.
but we've also learned that we can create tools to help us jump into the mess of life and make an adventure of it.
Welcome to our messy adventures in faith, family, and food.
Welcome
to a live recording, the first ever trial live recording of the Boles of Life podcast. We're going to just kind of see how it goes tonight.
Yeah, we didn't get our podcast out for today.
Correct.
So we're going to live record it until we can't record it any longer.
Yes.
I'm sure we'll have a visitor.
Yeah, there's a chance a small child will wake up. One of two at least, if not a third.
So we're going to live record it, but we'll also have it out by tomorrow.
Hopefully. That's the game plan.
Hopefully by tomorrow, so that we don't miss a week with these episodes.
That's right. Hey, Virginia, what is your least favorite true story that I have ever told our children?
My least favorite true story?
From my life.
Oh, from your life?
Yeah, from my life. You know what it is.
Oh, yeah. The ghost one?
The ghost story. All right, so true story. I was in like first, second grade, and I have a vivid memory of waking up in the middle of the night and seeing something over my toy box in my bedroom.
I hate the story.
And it was very clearly something ghostly looking, at least in my first, second grade brain. I was terrified. I also desperately needed to pee. And so I laid there as still as I possibly could, hoping it would disappear, and it did not. I was terrified, could not scream out or anything. It's like that. It's been multiple times in my life where I've gotten very frightened, especially as a smaller kid, and I never could make enough noise for anything. Like my throat almost like closed
I can see
up.
the fear in your eyes.
Oh yeah,
to
sure.
This day.
Can you? Definitely. Ultimately, the need to pee won out. And so I was just as still as I could be. I counted in my head, I think, and just like bolted. And I was actually in a bunk bed, so I literally like dove off of my bed and just ran out of the room as fast as I could. The door was open, so I was able to run out of the room, ran to the bathroom. I think I cut the light on and peed, and nothing.
Came back and nothing was there?
Nothing was there, yeah. Was it just me seeing shapes in the dark? Was there something there? Debatable.
I'm just going to say,
highly debatable.
I believe you were just dreaming.
Possibly. As I get older, that is more and more my feeling about it. But for the longest time, and I mean, there's a vivid memory. Like, there's a real thing in my life that happened.
Yeah, I was so mad when he told the story for the first time, too, because I was like, stop. Like, we have young children. Now they're going to be afraid of ghosts. Like, real ghosts. Like, they see it on TV and we're like, yeah, they're fake.
Yeah.
But, like, you just told a story where it sounded like they were real. Because it was, like, a real life story for you.
But I followed it up with saying it was probably just a dream.
Yeah. Well, because I gave you the eye.
You know, it is what it is.
Well,
it's fine.
And speaking of scary things, not too long before we started the podcast, we heard a little shuffle in our roof.
Oh, yeah. There's probably a mouse up there.
A mouse or a squirrel.
Or a squirrel.
Could be a squirrel.
Or a raccoon or a possum.
Aww.
There's all kinds
Those
of things
cute.
that could be up there. Not if they're in your attic.
No.
And you've got lots of questions of how they got there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole deal.
We tried to look, but of course, as soon as we opened the attic door, because it was right by the attic door.
Yes, it was.
As soon as we opened the attic door, the noise stopped. And we looked and we didn't see anything, so.
It was very hunkered down.
Yeah. It's probably like in the eaves.
Absolutely it
of
is.
The roof, like where it goes down.
Yeah. So we are walking through a book called Devotional Doctrine. Virginia, show the book for the video peoples out there. Devotional Doctrine by Aaron Armstrong. Small little green book. It was a very short, limited run to kind of support some Bible studies, but ultimately it's a book on systematic theology done in a very devotional way, so that it leads us not just to know more about God, but to delight more in Him.
Yeah, not just to know more, but to delight more.
Yes.
And just FYI, you cannot find this book to buy, but we have the PDF
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. PDF download.
Yeah, it's a free PDF download. If any of you guys happen to be actually live streaming right now, it looks like there's a couple of you on there. You can literally just Google Devotional Doctrine PDF and it'll pull it up. For you guys listening, podcasting later, it's down in the show notes for you, the link to it. Tonight we are walking through section of the book on creation. So last episode we were going through God's nature, kind of talking about who God is. This time we're talking about the creation he made. So we're going to see what the Bible has to say about the purpose of creation, what it means to be human, why evil exists, how God is at work in the world, and the reality of angels and demons. And if
can't wait for that one.
Sounds like a lot, that's because it is. We'll see how far we get and how long it takes us.
And FYI, for those that listened to last week's episode, I did get to see the 4 planets in the sky.
Yeah. You did, yes.
So at Life Group Sunday night, one of the kids pulled out the app where you can, see the stars and the constellations and all that, and it names them. So we did see Jupiter, Saturn, Venus, and Mars.
Yep.
And obviously the moon. So
let's go.
It was cool.
It's cool.
Yeah.
That is cool. So jumping into it, chapter 7 in this book is the first in this creation section, and it's kind of pointing to what creation is about and what we tend to miss in the creation story. Because most often when you hear conversations around creation, it's a conversation about, all right, was it done by evolution? Was it literal 6-7 days? Were each of those days like a whole age of thousands or even millions of years? Like, that's usually the creation conversation that happens, especially in church circles, of like, we're just debating the age of the earth and all this other stuff. But that's really not...
That's not the point of it being written in the Bible.
Right. Yeah. The Bible isn't trying to answer those questions.
Right.
Like, those aren't its focus. Again, it's the Tara Cobble quote of, don't whisper or don't shout where the Bible whispers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the Bible just isn't interested in answering those kind of scientific details that we're looking for as modern people, because it wasn't written to modern people. It was written in, ancient Hebrew days, and they were answering the questions that were most relevant to them in their day and age.
Yeah.
And so that's what they're focused on in the creation story.
When you think like in other cultures, when they tell the history of their people and the history of the world, like, I don't know, I'm just imagining like how they just like sat around and they told the story. Like, that's kind of like what it is too. It's like they're just retelling the story of creation. That's how it was told to them.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's recounting the story where the Bible's ultimately presenting God as the creator, and that means he's the one who owns what he created.
Yeah.
Paul David Tripp, who he's a theologian, but he always refers to himself as a painter by avocation, which is just vocation. I don't know why you need an I on the front of it, because it's the same word.
I don't know.
I don't either. Yeah. But anyway, he always refers to himself as a painter. And so he uses this analogy where he says, if I do a painting, and said, I am the owner of that painting. Even if I give that painting away or I sell that painting, he says, ultimately, that thing still has my signature on it because I created it. It is still my creation. No matter who I put in charge of it, it is my creation.
Right.
And that's really what the Bible presents as well, is that creation as a whole, the earth, but really universe, is God's creation, and he is the one who is in charge of it, even though he does give dominion, as most of our English translations, rule and reign to the humans. It's still him who is in charge of that creation. And that's really what the Bible creation story is focused on more than anything else, is who created it and what's kind of the purpose of it.
And kind of why.
Yeah.
Yeah, so who and why. But it doesn't focus on the details. Yeah.
And so when we're having all these discussions around the creation story, and we're having all these difficulties with accepting it, it really kind of boils down to the fact that if there's a creator, that means like, okay, we have someone we're accountable to, and there was purpose and reason for this.
Yeah.
Like with there being a creator, you have to then ask, well, why did he create? Like, what did he make humans for? That we're clearly, there's something different about us from the rest of the animal kingdom, so to speak. So, like, why is that? And, well, if he created, did he have, like, ideas of how we were supposed to live and what that looks like? And so when we're struggling with it, it's often a resistance against his authority and him being able to say, this is what creation is about. I know this is what you would like creation to be about. I know this is how you would like it to work. So it makes sense to you, but you're not its creator. I am. That's God speaking. And therefore, I get to say what it was created for and what its purpose is.
Yeah, I read something, and I think this was in one of the later parts of this section, but it's like, we want to be completely autonomous. Like, we want to be completely in charge of ourselves and our world around us. And that's where we kind of rub up against God as sovereign creator over everything. And I mean, I think that's, I kind of said it before. It's like, there should be something about God that kind of makes you, like, feel, I don't know, like, uncomfortable. Yeah, man, that's a good word. Yeah,
like, there is uncomfortability.
I was gonna say offended, but that's not quite the right word. But, like, yeah, like, uncomfortable. Like, okay, like, because you're not 100% autonomous.
No.
Right.
I mean, that's the discomfort of having a family. Is like, you are responsible to these other people in your house. Yeah. Like, even if you're the one who's in charge as a parent, like, you're still responsible to those children for what you do.
And just like our children who, you know, don't want to do what we say because they want to go play a game or go do something more fun. Yeah. Less boring, you know, than wiping down the table.
Boring. Then the whole fight we had tonight. Yeah. That's the one.
Then, yeah, it's like that is us at our core. That we don't want to have someone in charge of us. Yeah. Yeah. So that's something you really have to lay down when you believe that God is the creator and he is like you are his creation.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. Our worldview of how creation happened matters massively. And I'm not talking about the details of whether or not it was 1,000 days or whatever, like all of those questions. Whatever aren't the primary focus. It comes down to who is in charge and then what is owed to that person in charge, which is worship, it's gratitude, it's praise, like a form of thankfulness for just like, thank you that I exist.
Right, bottom line.
I mean, I could not.
Yeah.
I could literally not if
be
you
here.
Chose for me not to be.
At any point.
Only here.
At any point.
Because you choose for me to be here.
Right. At any point you could make me gone.
Yeah. And so that matters. I mean, then we get into Jesus, who is the creator, but he's not just creator, he is sustainer of all things. And I think that's another huge difference in the worldviews of, I mean, so many different religions, but even just modern, like, there is God or there is something, like, that kind of view. Like, I think Jesus being a sustainer who is hands-on in the way, especially was as a human, but still is, like, Colossians 3, I want to say, Colossians 3:23, that talks about he is all things that were made through him and for him. And I mean, that's what creation is about. He's the one who holds it together. Yeah. But it's also the one it is created for, in the sense that it is meant to point to him. All things were made through him and for him. Yeah. It exists to glorify God, to point to him, to bring praise and worship and honor to him. He is at the center of that purpose. Yeah. I mean, God the Father chose for God the Son to be the tangible piece of glorifying himself. Yeah. Because he's the one that we most clearly got to see and see what he is as God. Yeah. But
also as a human.
As a human, yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Right.
But So we've got this God, he's created all things, and he has pointed all things to him, but obviously things are broken in our world, but that doesn't change the fact that even in our fallen world, creation is still testifying to God's power and to his nature. Like, we still get to see glimpses of him throughout creation and get to kind of look around and say, okay, that's who he is. I think we've somewhat talked about it in previous episodes in this series of just how imaginative God is. Like, literally everything that exists, it first had to be filtered through God's imagination.
Right.
Like,
which is cool.
Yeah. I mean, we got on a whole tangent with the trees of how, what was it, 73,000 different kinds of trees?
Yeah. Like,
I'm sorry, God. Like, you could have made 3. It would have been fine. Like, this one's evergreen. This one has leaves in the winter.
Yeah.
Like, that's all you had to do. But he was like, no. I'll make a lot of them. They're going to be real cool.
Yeah, exactly. I think what's kind of cool is, like, even though we live in a fallen world, like you said, creation still testifies to God's power and nature. Because even in this fallen world, Jesus is still sustaining it. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not a fallen and broken world that was left by God.
Yeah.
It's a fallen and broken world that God stuck around and sent us our rescuer.
Yeah.
And is still rescuing, which is why the world hasn't ended yet. Because he's still rescuing people to him.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good. And we'll I think we'll circle back to some of that when we start talking about the problem of evil in a minute. But before we do,
sure, yeah,
let's talk about what makes a person a person. I mean, what makes people people? Because we're, according to the Bible, I mean, it's page 1, we're made in God's image, which, again, sets us apart from the rest of creation.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody really struggles with that. Even the most, and I say this in a loving, endearing way, not a negative sense, even the most tree hugger out there still, I think, recognizes that there is something different about humans than the rest of every animal and piece of nature. Like, we have very clearly different cognitive abilities and things of that nature. So there's just something different about us. And I think everyone is willing to own that. And I think one of the big things that we often define people as is what they do. Like, I mean, that's the question you ask people, right?
Like, what do you do? What do you do for your work? Or, you know.
And you just start automatically drawing all kinds of conclusions based on what they say.
And, like, your identity's in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of our most core ones is, what do you do? Or what are you skilled at? What are some achievements you have? It starts to develop a real utilitarian view of abilities and things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, and our identity also comes from other things, too, like our past.
Oh, yeah.
Our past.
Yes.
Period.
Yeah, we have a very strong tendency to define ourselves based on
what we've done or what has been done to us.
What we've believed about ourselves. I was kind of telling the story the other night. I bought the script pretty early in my life that I wasn't athletic, and I based that on the fact that a lot of my family, all of who were older than me, brothers, cousins, all that thing, they all had more athletic ability, which probably somewhat just boiled down to the fact that I was younger and literally wasn't capable of doing the things they were doing at that age.
Like you weren't there yet.
Yeah, but I bought the script that I wasn't athletic, and so I really never tried much in those realms. Yeah. And even when I would stick my toe in the water, like, if it just wasn't immediately and natural to me, I would jump out and I was done. Like, I'm out. And I mean, it wasn't until adulthood, 20s, that I started to go, I'm not sure if that's completely accurate about me. Now, am I the most naturally talented person at any sporting thing? Absolutely not.
Yeah. But, well, you don't know that because you don't really, like, play sport.
Yeah, I don't much. But there's a difference. Some people just do have the ability to just throw a ball properly. And
but that's because they've been doing it their whole life.
Yes and no, but we're rabbit trailing some on that. But anyway, I bought that script, and so I based a lot of what I did around that. Yeah, I made many, arguably big life choices, at least in teenage years, based on a script that I bought.
Yeah, I always like to ask the question in nutrition counseling when someone talks about some identity that they're holding on to, or like some, claim that they're making about themselves, I'll say, who told you that?
It's a good question.
And not that it matters really who told them. It just makes them go, oh, like,
I believe
that because my mom said that to me when I was young,
Yep.
or my dad or whatever said it to me when I was young.
Yeah.
So, then therefore their identity has come from what a person thought about them.
Versus,
so it's who mom said I am, or who grandmother said I am, and it's not who God says I am.
No, that's good. I love that question. There's a conversation happening right now because in Europe, medically assisted suicide is becoming pretty widely accepted, and there's now conversation in the U.S. about it as well. And it all stems from having a very utilitarian view of what it means to be a person.
Right.
Like
so if you're
if you're basically
in a coma.
You're in a coma, or you're
very low quality life.
Yeah, you have cancer, you have Parkinson's, you have Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Alzheimer's. I always say Alzheimer's.
I was saying Alzheimer's.
Yeah, however you say it.
How you say it.
Yeah,
there's a Z.
I'm pretty sure it's a German word, and that's why we mispronounce it.
Sure.
But anyway, like if you have some of these super debilitating medical conditions, well, then the question becomes like, what's the point of your life? Well, is it to be able to do something physically? Is the point of your life to be able to remember things? Like, are you no longer a person if you can't remember your family very well? Like, are you no longer a person because you don't provide any resource to the people around you? Like, there's no function you serve. You're actually a drain in some ways on the world around you. And then apply it.
Do you not matter if you're in the womb?
Exactly. That's where I was headed. Like, okay, so you don't serve any function. Technically, you're somewhat destroying the body of the host, if you want to say it in the worst ways.
Ugh, yeah.
Yeah, like you're destroying the host right now. You're a parasite. Like,
oh gosh, yeah,
so
that's how people look at it.
Yeah. So when personhood is based on ability to do something, that's what you get.
Yeah.
Is going, okay, well, it's a parasite. Abort it.
Yeah.
Or you don't provide any function and your family's not coming around to check on you real often, so why are you here? Just go ahead and die.
Yeah. I'm no use to my family anymore.
Yeah.
I shouldn't live.
Yeah.
That was heavy.
That was heavy.
But it's right. And I have a time check on Facebook because I have a time limit on my apps. Is it going to mess up?
I don't know.
It might.
We'll see what happens.
Oh, well.
Did it pop up?
Yeah, it did. We have 5 minutes.
Okay. We'll see what happens. I don't know. Yeah, so human worth ultimately doesn't come from our accomplishments or our abilities. It comes from God, who created us and gave us our identity, who gave us our purpose to rule and to reign, to take care of creation and to spread out and multiply, to bring the Eden ideal to the rest of creation.
Yeah.
Because that was really their purpose that was given to Adam and Eve. It wasn't just to tend this bit of garden that's right here, but it was to make this garden grow and flourish and expand
and
outward.
continue to expand throughout the earth.
Yeah. And so our value isn't based on what we can do. It's based on who God says we are and the ways that we're able to reflect him as his image. And I think there's 3 of them in the book that it kind of talks about.
Yeah, I love this. And I want to read the whole sentence here.
Yeah, go for it.
It says, what does it mean to be made in God's image according to his likeness? The short version is that as God's image bearers, we are mirrors reflecting God's attributes to the rest of creation in 3 distinct but complementary ways. So 1 is our nature. 2 is our actions. And 3 is our relationships.
So in our nature,
our characteristics, we're like him. We have, we're creative, we're communicative, we're logical, rational, moral, compassionate. Those are things that are just like in our DNA.
Yeah, we're capable of these things because God is capable of these things and he gave us those abilities. Yeah.
Yeah. And then our actions, is that God gave us authority to over the rest of creation and responsibility. So, you know, where it says in Genesis, like, rule and subdue, have dominion over the earth. Our actions, we are resembling God through that.
Yeah, and the way we care for, the way we work, the way we use science to help us understand creation and continue to care for it well.
And in a perfect world, we would be doing it well.
Yes, yes. There are moments, but yes, as a whole, we have not done a great job of that. No.
Yeah.
And then the third one,
our relationships.
Yes. And that God is Trinity and is always in relationship, which is a beautiful thing we won't dive back into because that was the last episode of the podcast. Go back and check it out. But ultimately, God exists in a never-ending relationship of loving between the Father, the Son, and the Spirit, where they all intimately love and know one another, and God invites us into that kind of relationship with him, but also with one another, where we are meant to intimately know one another and care for one another.
Yeah, and don't forget that means introverts and extroverts alike.
Yes, absolutely it does.
Yeah.
Introvert and extrovert is barely even a real thing.
Well, I know, but I know some people will use that as an excuse, like to say, like, I don't like people, I want to be alone, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's not even what an introvert actually is.
Right, that's not even true to what they define an introvert. But then again, it's just like, stop making excuses.
Yeah. Yeah. It really comes down to your relational bandwidth. Some people have the bandwidth for a ton of relationship and just like eat it up and want it. And some people only have the bandwidth for a little bit at a time, and then they need to catch their breath and jump back into it.
One thing also has to do with the depth of the relationship too. Like, introverts don't like small talk.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. We're ultimately created for relationship like God is. Now, sin distorts all of these things again, but they don't erase the image of God in us.
Oh, it kept going.
Good deal. It probably paused it for a minute.
Yeah.
But ultimately what I was saying is sin distorts the image of God in us, but it doesn't erase it, which is awesome, because if sin was able to erase the way we image God, like the way we reflect who he is, then we really would be like the rest of creation. I think that is the key difference, is that we are able to reflect who he is in some small semblance.
Right.
So yeah, yet again, sin popping its head up, but still not able to destroy what God has made and what God continues to sustain, which I think is kind of the through line of this whole section. Is that there it is. Sorry, the live stream jumped for a second there. But yeah, sin isn't able to destroy what God has created and has purposed.
Okay.
Even in all of its power, it hasn't destroyed everything of God.
Right. So, even though we live in a broken world, we have sin. It's not going to destroy the world.
Yeah. Yes.
His image.
His creation, period.
His creation.
Yeah, like sin and all of its power and all of the consequences of sin still doesn't have the ability to actually destroy God's creation. Still doesn't have the ability to completely destroy his image on us. It mars it. It distorts it, no doubt, but cannot destroy it.
I think some people take that argument too far sometimes, and they say that, like, not argument, but they take that thought
conversation.
Yeah, and they say that like God's sustaining the earth, therefore, like,
we don't have to care for
it. We don't have to care for it. Yeah. They don't use those words, but then it's like, well, we still have to care for it. So we still need to be mindful of, like, our, eco footprint, right? Like, or carbon footprint, I guess is actually the word.
Yeah.
And all of that kind of stuff.
Our first primary thing God told us to do was to care for the earth.
To care for the earth, right. So, like, it does matter what you do in your home and what you do in your yard and what on a global scale and a national scale we do with our crops and our food and our land and all that stuff.
I think some of that comes from, I won't call it bad translation, but a less than great translation of calling it new creation that's coming down the pipe instead of recreation, where God isn't making all things. He isn't making new things. He is making existing things new again. And I think that's also just some lack of understanding of what that means sometimes.
I like that. Yeah. And I always think this is a cool thing because we talk about heaven very, I think incorrectly.
Oh, gosh,
obviously, we don't have a full understanding of what heaven's going to be like, but know. Like if we're still thinking that heaven is like this place in the sky that's going to be all light and gold and brightness and like looks nothing like the earth, I think we're wrong.
Yeah.
Because like we said, like God created the earth for a reason,
right?
And is going to make it new again one day. So it's really that heaven's going to come down to earth, not that earth is going to diminish, and then we're going to go up to this like ethereal place that's like nothing like where we've been living. Yeah,
I mean there is a heaven that exists right now, and exactly what all that is, sure,
it's like outside of earth.
We'll get into that in the next further chapter, next section of the book. But yeah, there's an existing heaven now, and that existing heaven is joining recreation when that day comes.
Recreation,
recreation.
I like that. Thank you, Bible Project.
Probably. It feels like something I probably got from
I'm pretty sure it was. Okay, pause. You kind of said this, but like, I love what he says here is like the key to human flourishing. You know, when we think about this broken world, we think about all the bad things that are going on. And I know we're going to get to evil just a second, but like, you know, my hope is in God and in Jesus being, you know, our sustainer. But like as humans, because we have God in us as Christians, like because we are image bearers, when we act like Jesus, when we actually like use those characteristics that we have of God, then that is actually what will lead to, you know, the kingdom of God on earth, right? Heaven on earth is good things happening, you know, making things right, flourishing, human life flourishing. So, you know, caring for and loving our neighbor is not just so we get in the good graces of God. Caring for and loving our neighbor is so that we, you know, have love around us for each other. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not, again, it's not utilitarian. Yeah. Like, it's not just about getting something out of God. We do these things to get something from Him. And we do this because this is just how we exist all together. And it's just kind of should be our nature because it is the nature God has given us to love and care for the people around us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like yeah. Okay. That's like a whole conversation.
Yeah.
Side note.
Yeah. It's part of it. Ultimately, it all comes down to sin, to evil. And yet again, this is one of the places where the Bible doesn't really explain why evil began or exactly how it began. I think there's some things in Ezekiel that kind of nod to like rebellion. And that's where Satan and demons come from.
Right.
But like even that is just, there's not much there. People make a lot out of a little there. Say it that way.
Yeah.
But what the Bible does do is shows how God overcomes evil. Like everybody acknowledges that evil exists, but not every worldview offers a solution to evil. And I think that's again one of the primary differences. Like some religions do, no doubt, but in our modern world where religion is just kind of, you know, a spiritual whatever thing that if I think that sounds good, I'll pull that into my worldview, but otherwise I'll chunk it off to the side. It's just kind of grabbing whatever.
And I mean, I can't look at this world and see the evil in it, like in the humans in it, you know, and not like want to believe that there's something out there that's going to take care of it all.
Like, oh gosh,
like I just don't understand living that way.
Yeah.
Like not believing, you know, that God loves us and is saving us, because I would look at every problem in the world and be completely depressed and anxious.
You mean like our super depressed and anxious world? Where our depression and anxiety continues to go up and our belief in God continues to go down?
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously we know there's chemical imbalances, blah, blah, blah. We're not talking about when that can happen, but just like when you, like, that's how it would be, right? Like, that's how I feel like if you have no hope, man, you would be depressed. I would be depressed.
Gosh, there's so many things I want to rabbit trail on this
conversation.
But
I know.
I want to let it go.
I do too.
It's because we're not actively practicing a religion, any religion. We're therefore not existing in the community of our religion, and thus we don't have people around us, and that's causing problems. We're also then further isolating ourselves because of screen and the ease of isolation that technology has created for us, and just all the things that continue. Which in a lot of ways all stems back to I don't have a firm belief in hope in anything. Like, I'm not connected to people because I don't have any hope that I can center around with these people.
Yeah. And I don't think that's the case for everybody. I think there are people that are still in good community and, I mean, like they still are trying to do things good for the world. But I see what you're saying though. Like you would have to get to a point where you may get to a point where it's like, I don't trust anybody. And I mean, I've seen that.
Oh, absolutely.
Where you can't trust anybody because
you live in a utilitarian worldview.
Yeah.
Where everything's about what it can do for you. And if you're not doing for them, or they find something better and they can many things. They can be traced back to, I don't have a hope.
Yeah. I don't want to live that way, at least.
So, all that to say, yet again, the Bible offers a solution. It does necessarily
not give us
why, how's, all that clarity that we would like to have. I mean, I'd love to have the clarities, no doubt. Mm-hmm. But it gives us the solution. And
I mean, we wouldn't, if we had all the answers, would God be God?
Right. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, we can't. And that was, again,
we talked about that last week.
Like, we can't contain what it is to understand all of the things that God is doing. Like, our brains aren't capable of it. So we live with that tension of, if God is good and powerful, why does he allow evil? Mm-hmm. And, it's a real question, and not one that's just easily shucked off.
No, it's not.
Yeah, like, there is obviously the answer of, okay, well, if God just created Adam and Eve where they were incapable of making any choice, then there's no free will, and would you want to live that way? But then there's also okay, he gave us free will, we made the choice, now can he solve the problem? And it's like, yeah, he could just come in and wipe the problem out, but he chose not to wipe the problem out in the ways that maybe is most satisfying to us, because yet again, it would probably be in a way that takes away all free will, where Jesus as the solution doesn't take away our free will. Yet again, God is still presenting us with the choice and the option. Like, he's not forcing himself on us, which in a culture like ours, where conversations around having someone force themselves on you, like, is that what you want?
Right. No.
Like, we have whole movements about that.
Yes.
No, we don't want someone forcing themselves on us. We want someone who's willing to court us and make sacrifices on behalf of us to show just how deeply they love us.
Yeah. And, like, also that they're doing something about the evil in the world.
Right.
Like, because...
Yeah.
Where is that justified?
Yeah.
If there is no God who cares and came to rescue through sacrifice.
Yeah. And again, like, this is a 10-second conversation on a much larger conversation. Like, I get it, and there's a level of which I can understand why somebody would want to reject God, because they do struggle to reconcile suffering in our world with God's divine love. Like, I can understand why that exists.
Yeah.
Like, that tension point between the two, but God presents evil as a paradox, like something that's strange and hard to understand, but not as a contradiction. At no point does the Bible present evil's existence as a contradiction of God being all-loving and all-powerful.
Right.
Again,
it's existent, but it's not a contradiction.
Yes. The Bible
coexistent.
Yeah. God is still all-powerful and all-loving, even though evil exists in the world. And so Jesus' life, death, and resurrection are God's answer to evil. And even in that, evil's not eliminated fully yet, but it has been defeated completely. And I think that's also a tension point for people, is like, if Jesus came, why not end it there?
Right.
And was it Peter? I want to say it was a Peter. A quote talking, essentially saying that God didn't want, it might be Paul. Anyway, it doesn't matter. God didn't want anyone to perish. Like, the whole reason existence continues is because God is making space for one more.
Yeah, I wish you could reference that, because I've, we've talked about that before. Yeah.
And it's just this, God has a desire. He is making space. He's creating opportunity for more to come to him. Is there eventually an end point? Yeah, that's what Scripture teaches. Do we know when that's going to be? No, and everybody who has predicted it has been wildly wrong, so we're definitely not doing that here either. So he is our answer to evil, even though it hasn't been eliminated. It has been defeated. The cross turned suffering into redemption. It took suffering and said, I'm going to use suffering in order to create the thing that redeems everyone away from suffering.
And I think that, I wonder how that resonates with people who are going through suffering.
Yeah.
Like, when you go through suffering, when you remember that suffering was what actually redeemed the whole world.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see it being comforting, for sure. I could also see, again, trying to be fair. Like,
right. That's why I'm asking the question.
Other side of the conversation of like, oh, did it have to be that? Like, that's how it had to be?
Right.
Yet again, there's just, I think with God, there comes a line where you have to finally be comfortable with the uncomfortable tension of going, I am going to trust, even though I don't fully understand.
Yeah, and I know some people don't like that.
Yeah.
They don't want to just be uncomfortable with it. Or comfortable with uncomfortable.
Yeah. Whether life situations have made it difficult to trust, or it's just like an overthinking, essentially. Like, I don't want to downplay that, but I think for some people it just is an overthinking thing. Where it's like, if I can't have all the answers, if this doesn't answer all the answers, can it be the answer?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like,
think about people who, because this is not my personality necessarily, but like those personalities that they really do a lot of like studying to get to know the answer. I think maybe it's like, is it like an Enneagram 5 that likes to really like be like very logistical and like wants to kind of think it through and understand it. So there are personalities, I think, that definitely want to know why. We talked about that at Life Group the other night, or some friends, some little group did, but we were just like kids, like they ask why over and over and over again. Yeah. And you kind of get to the point where you're like, I don't have an answer for that. Yeah. Anyways, I think there's some personalities that, really definitely think that way.
Yeah, absolutely. The Bible doesn't give us the whys. It doesn't give us the hows. It leaves us with tension, which I have zero question is intentional. Like, yes, God left us with tension on purpose to create, one, just a desire to search after it in hopes that the search leads to him. Yeah. In confidence that it often will lead to him. I think it also leaves us with tension just to keep drawing us back to him over and over. And it gives us the solution nonetheless.
He's playing hard to get. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think that's the case.
No, I'm kidding.
I would say he's presented many avenues to reach him.
Yes.
Many avenues to reach Jesus and hope and faith through Jesus. Let me say that very clearly.
He's
when I say avenues to reach him,
leaving us wanting
Jesus.
more.
Yes, a desire for Jesus.
I don't know. I was joking.
But yeah, ultimately, his justice is going to prevail, and evil has an expiration date.
Yeah, thank God.
Thank God, genuinely.
Yeah.
If reading up on the problem of evil and suffering is of interest to you, I think I've mentioned it before in this series, but D.A. Carson's How Long, O Lord?
Yeah. It's a short one? Is that the one that's short?
Evil.
No, that one's not the short one.
It's not crazy long.
That was another book you recommended last week that was short.
That's How The Lighting in the Trinity. Yeah.
How Long, O Lord?
Yeah, it's probably 300-ish pages, something like that. But it's very readable. It's not a academic text, because you'll never hear me recommending those because I haven't read them.
Yeah.
Not that kind of reader. Anyway.
No, except for when you were in school.
Yeah, I'm not sure I read them then either, if we're being honest. I skimmed them.
Yeah.
Skimmed them. Anyway, so even though there's evil in the world, God is still always at work. He's constantly working in the world, both in miraculous and providential ways. I don't actually love the categories because I think all things are miraculous in some ways or another, but we'll get into that probably a little bit in this. But he gave them the miracles and providential in the book categories, so we'll chase them that way. Because they are helpful, even if I don't like them the best. So miracles, miraculous things, when God works supernaturally, aka when God shows up in ways that aren't natural to science, is what we typically mean when we say miracle.
Can we say that science is a miracle?
Absolutely.
Because it's a miracle that they were able to, I think from a pig, create or get insulin so that people with diabetes could live. Praise God, that's a miracle for me.
Yep.
But that's more sciencey, so
we call it providential.
Is that providential? Yeah. Like God was.
Yeah, you're making my argument. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to make your argument.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, but
miracles, but anyways,
when we use that phrase,
we do think we're like supernatural, like that couldn't happen. Would that be like
the laws of science?
Would that be like they had a cancer growth, they were doomed to cancer, and then not because of medicine,
they did a scan and everything was gone.
They did the next scan and everything was gone.
Yeah,
that's the miracles we're talking about.
Yeah,
when we put them in that category,
we got them in these kind of categories. Yeah,
but providential when it's the medication that makes it go away.
Yeah,
right.
Yes, basically,
or not.
And so when we have the miraculous, it is easy to look and go, okay, well, there's God's power and truth at work in our world. Because if you don't have the category for miracles from a higher power period, then what do you do with those things that defy science? If you have no category for a higher power, what do you do with things that defy science?
Oh, yeah.
You then have to go, well, we just haven't understood it yet.
Right.
Which
is how some people think,
maybe.
Yeah.
But I feel like we've understood a lot of things, and I feel like we know that tumors shouldn't just disappear. But you know what? Junk like that happens.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say daily, but I feel like I hear enough stories of it that it's happening regularly.
Well, like a crippled man for 36 years then stands up, because Jesus told him to.
Absolutely.
Miracle.
Francis Chan tells the story of being in Miramar.
Miramar?
Yeah, that one. Something like
Miramar.
that. I think it may
Miramar.
It may have a new name now because they had a big rebellion 2 years ago or something.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, it doesn't matter. He was in that country and was praying there for mission work types of things, and this lady comes and she wants him to pray, and he prays over her, and she has this literally a growth on her head, visibly can see it, and she wants him to pray over it, and so he does. And Francis Chan is somebody who believes in the supernatural and things of that world, and so he prays over it and looks at the translator and is like, did that just get smaller? And the guy's like, yeah, I think so. And so they keep praying.
I've heard this story.
I don't know if it completely went away or not. I don't remember the story well enough to say that for fact, but like it continued to get smaller as they prayed.
Wow.
Like it was visibly different.
Yeah. And he was not, he had a translator. He was not the only one, like.
Yeah, it wasn't just a hymn story.
This.
Like there are other witnesses.
Other people.
Yeah, and so like if you have no category for a higher power, what do you do with that? Do you just say, those people are crazy, they're lying, they're just trying to make money? Is that what you do? Because Francis Chan has thrown all the dollars away, has literally accidentally started and closed 2 mega churches. Like, dude rejects money left and right.
He's not doing it for money.
He ain't chasing money. So, what? Okay, was it fame? Because he also runs for that pretty regularly. He hides a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah. If you don't have a category for the miraculous, you get stuck with a lot of, how does this exist?
Yeah.
And
I'm sure it's like, oh, it's a miracle of the universe or of the deity of God, but not like God.
Yep. Yeah, so they reveal who God is. I mean, Jesus used miracles to reveal who he was. And that's part of what you could say is why there's so many miraculous type things going on around Jesus, is because God was revealing that Jesus himself is God. I think there's a bigger conversation there to be had about just the fact that he had a faith in God the Father. In a way that we are capable of, technically. Technically, but also incapable of because of sin. Where he was unmarred by sin. Yeah. We are.
Yeah.
I keep saying marred, like that's a regular part of my vocabulary. Distorted, broken by sin.
I'm pretty sure that's like a Bible project.
Probably.
They say that a lot.
Yeah.
Marred.
Anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, to point to who he is, and ultimately salvation itself is the greatest miracle because it's bringing the spiritually dead to life. Like there is nothing scientific about a dead heart being brought to life, to use Bible terms.
Right.
And so that's the miraculous side of things. They even continue today. I have no trouble with that. I used to. I don't anymore. For the longest time, like anytime I heard miraculous kind of stories, even after becoming a believer, like a genuine Jesus follower, those were still, they're just hard to swallow. But I don't question them the way I so used to when I
More
heard
skeptic.
Those. Anytime I heard it, my first assumption was that's not real. Or this specific instance isn't real. Yeah. That was my default. Yeah. That's not my default anymore, right. I guess is what I'm trying to say. That doesn't mean I'm just automatically believing it every time someone says something. Like, I do still, read the room a little bit, so to speak. But I don't default to that in quite the same way anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
So there you go. But then there's also the providential ways. Man, God is in charge of the universe, and he did create the pig with the insulin or whatever it was that they pulled from. Yeah. Like, he created that, and it's still him being in charge. Like, whether it's something that defies the laws of science or it's something that follows the laws of science, neither is an argument against God.
Yeah.
Like, he created things in a way so that they would do exactly what they do.
Right.
Like, that's why our ecosystem, when left alone, balances itself so well. Yeah. When we're not over here screwing it up.
Right.
It does that because...
Taking rocks and introducing them into a new ecosystem.
Oh, is that just your world of being a mom? You take rocks, and by you I mean your small children. Yeah.
Let's introduce those parasites into our backyard.
Hey, let's go! Come on, we got lots of new parasites back there. We release rocks in our yard all the time. So good. And God uses human choices, even our sinful ones, to fulfill his purpose, and that's still him acting providentially. Like God doesn't make us sin, but he is fully aware of when and where we are going to sin, and so he uses those things in order to bring glory to him, to bring acknowledgement of him, to show who he is.
I think that's where providence, like you said, he doesn't make us sin. Like, when we say God's in control of everything, we're not saying that God is, like, literally making people sin.
Correct.
Right? So, but when people sin, just like he did throughout the Bible, like when Abraham, and Isaac and everybody started doing things their own way.
Yep.
He was like, okay, godless is God. God's like, okay, you did that thing. I still got to get the lineage of Jesus. So we're going to come back to here, or, whatever. We're going to stick to the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a much less sad sounding way, but yes.
Yeah.
Your tone of voice is what I meant there.
Oh,
yes.
yeah. I mean,
yes.
I just meant like, okay, like, come on, guys, let's get back to the plan.
Yeah, it's more, well, not that it's more, was Jesus dying on the cross a good thing?
That's like Good Friday.
Yes.
Is Good Friday really good?
Jesus dying on the cross was a good thing. Was it done as a sinful action? By the people who did it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, they're beating and murdering someone. There was nothing not sinful about that.
Not a question.
But yet God used their sinful actions to bring about the greatest good that ever did.
The greatest good you is ever going to get.
Or ever going to get, yeah. Yeah, I mean, so it was a human sin, but it brought about human redemption as well.
Yeah.
And so God is in control.
Continues to use us and our sin anyways.
Yes.
God is in control. Okay. Providence.
He's sovereign over all the things. Over all the things. Okay. All right. Chapter 11. We made it here.
Oh, okay. We're there. Okay.
We're there.
Finally.
Angels and demons are real.
My favorite conversation. And then I get all scared and I'm like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah. The angels and demons are real. But Jesus has ultimate authority over them. God has ultimate authority over them. So Scripture is very clear. Angels are there. They are created beings. They were clearly created before humans. Pretty clearly.
If you see sons of God in the Bible, not all the time.
I was going to say, don't make a blanket statement.
No, not all the time. But it may be that he's talking about angels and demons.
Correct. Yes.
Which demons are fallen angels.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Because
they are angels who have been marred.
Right, because Satan didn't go, or whatever, whoever Satan, whatever. Like the first adversary. I don't know. Is Satan. Yeah.
The Satan means the adversary.
Right.
Yes.
So nobody created extra demons.
Correct.
They were already created by God
as angels.
And so now they are fallen. They chose to fall.
Sin.
Yeah.
Which is clear sin had actually apparently happened. Like, whether the fall, we can have a whole conversation about that.
Right.
Whether or not their fall happened before, at the same time, or after. Like, all of that, whatever. I don't think that's clear in Scripture. Not that I'm aware of. But clearly Satan had already harbored sin in his heart.
Yeah, and he because he can't. Well,
he comes and he adversaries. Like, that's what he does.
And he talked Eve into going against God.
Yes.
Wow, that's a lot.
But that wasn't humans, so our fall is different from their fall.
Right.
Yes.
So, like, there's a whole spiritual world that we barely know anything about.
Correct.
We know it exists.
Correct.
We know that there are some angels with lots of eyeballs on their wings.
Yeah. There's also a God-mobile.
A God-mobile, what?
Yeah, it's like they're on a chariot moving together or something like that. It's weird. It's a whole deal.
An angel-mobile.
I think the throne's on it at one point.
Oh.
I can't remember. Ezekiel's real weird.
Okay.
I haven't read it thoroughly enough to...
I'll get there one day.
Yeah, really talk about it. But yeah, it's weird.
But yeah, so angels are created. They're not humans. They serve God.
You're correct.
By delivering messages.
Yeah, that's their purpose.
But also, I'll read the rest of that. They serve God by delivering messages.
They protect.
And execute his judgment.
Yeah. Oh. I mean, they roll up on Sodom and Gomorrah and they judge.
Oh, yeah.
Or they execute his judgment. Yeah. There's the one in Daniel.
I like the protecting.
Yeah, there's one in Daniel that was like supposed to come like a week or something before that. Daniel's been praying about this thing, and this angel finally rolls up and is like, hey, I'd have been here like a week ago or a month ago, something, but I've been fighting with a demon.
That's right. Like,
I'm sorry, what, dog? Slow your roll. You're telling me God sent you out days ago, and you literally had to fight a demon to get here?
That's awesome.
I don't even know what to do with that.
Okay.
And that's where books like Piercing the Darkness from old Frank Peretti came from. Is that kind of
See, I feel like I
stuff.
would love like the Ted Decker and the Frank Peretti books.
Yes.
But I've never read them.
Yeah, well, they are good.
We need to get on audiobooks so we can listen to them.
Yeah, sure.
But anyways, I like to pray that God would send his angel armies to protect our home from all evil, illness, harm, and bad dreams. I say it in that order. I think I've shared this before.
Yep.
On the habits of the household. But I know that sounds weird. I don't know who it sounds weird to, but maybe it sounds weird to you. I've heard a story about a Satanist who would like do this like
out of body
experience, and he would walk around his neighborhood, and he was like staying with somebody, like a family member, and like he could not enter into like the rooms of the kids because their parents had been praying over them. And there were some houses that I'm getting chilled when I was just talking about it, like freaks me out, but like they could not enter into these houses, and there was like a bright light around them. And so that is because I heard that story from a friend. This was a friend's like family member, so I believe her stories. And that is what I think about, like that the angel armies are literally like surrounding my family's home, protecting my family and my children from all evil and the other things that I mentioned, but especially evil.
Yep.
And I think if we're not doing that, then we should be.
Yes.
Because we could do, like, and I feel like sometimes I pray it like every night. And sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't say that. I have to say it. Like almost like it's like I have to check this box because if I don't say it, God's not going to protect us. I don't believe that. Like I feel like that's what I'm doing.
We function that way sometimes.
Yeah. I feel like I don't believe that, but I feel like the fact that I'm like doing it the way that I am is almost like I believe that God wouldn't protect us if I don't say it. I don't believe that, but you know.
No, that's the point of liturgies and liturgical prayers are less about making God do a thing,
but it's more about
providing for you in certain ways.
Helping me trust and know that God is answering and doing and taking care of us. But I truly believe that the spiritual realm is, I have never had an encounter, and I don't want one. But like it's there, and I will pray against it. Absolutely. I don't want a special gift, though. No, thank you.
Yeah, because encounters with angels in Scripture, as we've already said, are wild. That's why every time one of them shows up,
don't be afraid.
That's the first thing.
Don't be scared.
Don't be scared. Louis Igloo did a whole message on that, and I have stolen bits and pieces of that one over the years.
I remember when you preached that. It was so good.
Yeah.
Wasn't it like on Easter or something?
It was around Christmas time. It's a Christmas one.
Oh, yeah,
Christmas. Because it's with Mary. Yeah. Because that's one of, if not the only time in Scripture where angel pops up, first says something else, and then says, don't be afraid.
Oh, yeah.
And the whole thing was that Gabriel...
He was so excited to tell the news.
The coming of...
He's like, finally.
Jesus. Yeah. I've
been hearing about God doing something all these years, and finally Jesus is coming.
The snake crusher is coming.
The snake crusher. So this little chapter does not talk in depth about all the things that we've talked about.
No, yeah.
But I wanted to go there.
Yeah, absolutely. There's still the demons who are led by Satan. They oppose God and are constantly trying to deceive humanity. Like, that's their goal, is to pull as many away from God as possible, to join in their suffering.
To steal, kill, and destroy.
Yeah. Whatever that looks like.
Whatever that really.
They can influence but not possess believers. I feel like that's an important thing to have a conversation around for sure. Maybe not in this exact moment, but there's a whole conversation there for sure. Yeah. And I know some people who would feel otherwise, and I don't know. I struggle.
Don't think where the Holy Spirit is
that they could be in the same
body.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Again, like influence, whisper, however you want to say that.
But yes.
Like, yeah, I think that's very possible. But possess, I don't think so, no.
Like oppression versus possession.
Yes, I believe that's the language I've heard. Thank you for saying that. I can't remember that. But yeah. And ultimately, here's our confidence. Jesus' authority over demons is absolute.
They tremble at his name.
Yeah, they do. And
sorry.
They do. You're thinking about the Bible story about the guys who try to cast out somebody in the name of Paul, basically, and something about Jesus.
I was thinking of Supernatural.
That show.
On the airplane. Okay, can we just side note real quick?
Go for it.
So on that Supernatural episode, he
on an airplane. It's pretty early.
They were, it's like, because I only watched a few, so it was literally, it had to be like in the first 5 episodes. Yeah. And Bloody Mary was one of those episodes too, and I couldn't look in a mirror in the dark for a few days. But in the bathroom specifically, I remember. Anyways, we were in Australia, so he was on a plane and he knew to like say Jesus Christ or something. Yeah. I think he did like the Catholic symbol.
Yeah.
But anytime I have a dream where there's a demon, which does not happen very often, but if there is, I'm trying to scream the name of Jesus.
As you should.
And you know how like you can't run in your dreams and you can't yell when you want to yell? So if you ever hear me, like, you know how people, they'll talk in their sleep too. Yes. Like if you ever hear me going, Jesus, 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 like trying to say it, just wake me up because I'm dreaming about demons. Sorry, y'all just got to see inside my brain. It doesn't happen very often, but if it does, it's probably gonna happen tonight because we talked about it.
Yeah, sure, that makes sense.
But I can't. It's like I'm saying it, but I can't because I'm trying to yell Jesus, but I can't because it's a dream.
There you go.
Okay, sorry.
No, I'm here for it.
His authority is absolute over demons,
which is the win.
Yeah.
Because this is God's creation. And even though it has been distorted by sin, marred by sin, we call it broken. But in this moment, I'm actually hesitant to now use that language because it's not broken in the sense that it has not been completely changed from in a way that he's not in control of it. It's not broken in a way that his image isn't still present.
Yeah, I like that. Where did we get the word broken?
I have no idea.
Is that even like in the Bible?
I don't know.
So I think because people struggle with that word today, like as far as like mental health goes, it's just they have to like, especially depending on what like religious background they grew up in, and the whole like, I am not broken. And it's like, well, we believe that like we're broken by sin, but anyways, I like using a different word because I think broken, at least in this culture now, has taken on a different meaning.
Yep.
And also, like you were saying, when we say broken, that means unfixable.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I mean, because when recreation comes, when eternal life happens, when Jesus comes back and all that happens, like, we will be made new. Or we will be recreated.
Yep.
And if we were broken like a glass, a cup is broken. Like, you can't fix that.
Yeah.
Now, on Earth, you can use that whole analogy of what the Japanese did with broken gold porcelain or whatever. They put the gold in it. And yeah. I mean, that's a beautiful analogy. And like to a degree, like while you're on Earth, like that is God working and healing within you. And so the gold that brings your broken pieces back together. That's a cool analogy, and I like that.
Absolutely.
But anyways, yes, I agree. That's all. That's all I wanted to say.
No, it's good. It's good. Yeah. So his creation, he's an authority over it. It all still points to him, even though it is marred and distorted by sin. And even the most powerful beings out there are still answerable to him. There's nothing going on that he is not still in control of. Does that leave us with a lot of tension and questions?
Yeah.
Absolutely it does. And that's where it being called faith comes in, ultimately, is that it does require faith. There aren't absolute perfect answers that satisfy in perfect ways because, again, like, how does an infinite being be understandable by finite creation? Ask.
I have a thought. And so you were talking, and so I didn't catch everything you said.
Okay.
But, like, as parents, okay, I can't begin to, like, obviously 100% understand God and his ways, right? I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But as a parent, as parents, don't we just sometimes wish that we could make everything perfect for our child and protect our child from every single thing? Mm-hmm. But the reality is, like, they won't learn and grow in the world that they're in if we shelter them and protect them and make everything, rainbows and butterflies in their world and make them where they don't have to work hard or do anything. There are times where we just, like, that's what we really want, but, like, that's not really what we want, because we want our child to learn and to grow and to be strengthened and challenged and all of that. And so, I mean, I think to some degree, like, when we think about why doesn't God just wipe evil out? Well, if he did, like, there would be no growth into, I don't know, who he created us to be. Mm. I know that isn't fully like...
Yeah, I think there's truth in it. I don't want it to come across to say that there had to be evil.
No. I don't mean that. Yeah.
God's creation,
but, like, since it's here,
he created it to be.
No, you're right. Yeah, I didn't mean for it to sound like that.
Yeah, again, it's that he uses it but doesn't create it.
Right.
Doesn't cause it. Doesn't force it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah. I do love the parenting thoughts, though. Just like, there are things that if our kids could understand, like, it would change the way in which they do some things, for sure, but they're literally just not capable of understanding. Like, there are times where we explain a thing exactly perfectly, but they just can't grasp it because they're incapable of it.
Yeah,
and I think that's a little bit very more analogous to us understanding God and why he does and allows and all the things. Yeah.
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 Okay.
High five. All right, we're live. Do you have a recipe? Yes or no?
Oh.
You didn't think about it. It's okay.
No, hold on.
10.
Oh, don't do that to me. That stresses me out. Guacamole.
Okay.
And it was the other day. I was like, I have a recipe, and I didn't write it down. Okay, so I made it the other day, and I really wanted guacamole. We were eating, like, tacos, and I had bought avocados, but I didn't buy avocados with the plan to make guacamole. I just bought avocados to have them, like, for toast or for a snack or whatever. Well, we were doing Mexican. I wanted guacamole. So I had a can of Rotel, or actually the Kroger brand Rotel. But if I say Rotel, you know what I'm talking about. Diced tomatoes with green chilies in the small can. But I had Rotel, and I had guacamole. I had avocado, And I did Google a recipe, but, like, I didn't have all the things. Like, lime juice would have been great, but I didn't have that. And it didn't call for seasonings, but I'm like, hey, I need seasonings. Outside salt and pepper. So anyways, I think I did 3 avocados, a can, drain it, of Rotel, drain it, and then salt, pepper, paprika. I think I did garlic because I like garlic. I did not put onions in there, but you could put onions in there or onion powder. And if you have lime juice, that's, great. And that also does keep the avocado from browning, but we ate that guacamole. It wasn't going in the fridge.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yes,
was it not so good?
Yeah, it was delicious.
Like, of course, it wasn't like fresh tomatoes, but, like, if you are in a pinch and you keep Rotel in your pantry and you have avocados, guacamole.
Love it.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
And we're live, y'all. We really do record this late.
Every time.
11 p.m. And praise
children.
God, no child interrupted tonight.
We're an hour 15 in. Let's go.
That is wild.
It is wild.
I don't know who our listeners were, but we had a couple in and out.
I think we've had a few at all times. Thanks for being here, guys.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
Here's what you can do for us, whether you're live or you're listening to the podcast recording later. Head to bolesoflife.com and just check out all the things. We got recipes, we got life and faith resources. There is an opportunity for you to join our emailing list so that you know every time these kinds of things happen. I am hoping to get back into blog writing, and then you'll kind of get some of those emails too. That is a goal for the years, to get back into that.
Yeah.
I have a small cache of them to get me rolling. I just got to start posting.
And we have some other ideas that are slowly coming just because we have 3 children and it takes a while to do anything.
Yeah, absolutely, it does.
So just hang in there. We're coming with some more stuff.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us on this live podcasting journey. We'll see you guys again soon.